Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And we're looking at the aspects of natural law violations and how we individually may be participating in natural law violations ourselves. How to bring it home so that we're not just pointing the finger at the politicians and feeling hopeless ourselves. Because we can use these natural law violations as a set of spiritual principles to live by, and thereby we can become more and more aligned with natural law. So again, the natural law violations are murder, rape, trespass, physical theft, coercion, and deception. And most of the ones that I encounter in my life are coercion and deception. So I'm gonna use an orograph that I did this weekend to um, talk about natural law in this session. I was at a psychic fair this weekend doing orographs, which is one of the things I do as an intuitive artist. I do intuitive readings of my artwork for clients. And this weekend, I wasn't attracting too many orograph customers because they didn't know what it was. So I decided to just start drawing because I know that drawing attracts people. So I just asked my guides, God, to give me an an orograph for the vendors in the fair. I thought that's what I was saying. If I could do an orograph for the people that were vending at the fair, if offering some assistance, what would that drawing be? So I'm going to share my screen. So this is the drawing that I did here. And as it turned out, it wasn't like a love bomb, unfortunately. It was a dire warning. So I'm going to talk about this here. Uh, in this drawing, the querent, the person, me, us, humanity, is sitting on the left side, which is the future, looking to the right side, basically. The right side is the past. Um, and she is of angelic nature, spiritual nature. Um, and that's her crown chakra right there. Her head is tilted, so this is her crown chakra. And then her root chakra, her foot chakra of what would be her left foot, is showing the point that receives energy from the earth. So she receives energy through her crown and through her foot. And it is metabolized through the other, through the seven chakras of the body. What is also happening is this heart and with wings, but there's only one wing. See, there's only one angel wing showing, and there's only one wing of the heart showing, which is interesting, which is that this is one's calling. So it's only the right wing is showing of that side. So really what we could read this as, this is the left wing of the calling and this is the right wing. But the heart is outside the body. So it's basically misplaced calling. And it's handicapped, as is our spiritual connection because it's unbalanced. Um, Now here she is. She's sitting there and she's pulling fish out of the ocean and feeding them to this parasite, which is both covering her up completely. I'll show you the original drawing when I first did it. It's down here. See, it was just covering. She was covered. But then I could see the rest of the situation, so I filled it in here. Um, she's being strangled by this parasite, and she's stealing resources from the ocean, which is her spirit, her own spirit. The ocean is representative of the spiritual realm, and feeding them to this reptilian parasite. So that's what her whole purpose in life, using her right hand, her left hand is not showing, is to steal spiritual resources from actually from herself, and feed them to this spiritual parasite, which is fiat currency, which is, that goes back to the International Monetary Fund. It's the reptilian arm that we give our energy to, because we're not using our own currency backed by our own labor hours. We're using promissory notes based on theft of gold, where we were coerced out of our gold. I can't remember what year that was. You guys can look that up. And we were given these promissory notes, these fiat currency notes that we now use as our currency. And those, just the inherent value of those promissory notes is debt based, meaning that it is only created when it is borrowed, and it creates more debt because of interest. So if you exchange your goods and services from your heart for these fake currency notes, you're basically always going to be a debt slave as a result of that. The only way that we could trade our goods and services in a free market would be if we were using currency that represented our labor hours that were not attached to or printed by the Fed. So just by using the Fed, we place ourselves in enslavement, which is basically we're stealing our own energy and selling it off to a never-ending parasite. This is a parasite. And it's covering us up, and it's strangling her. But she's got her foot out, she can still gain energy from the universe. Like it's a choice. It's just like the devil card in the tarot. Like you could just lift the chains off anytime you want. Now, you might not be able to live the extravagant lifestyle of that Americans think is the way to live. You'd be living simply, but um you'd be living in the agora, and you'd be living close to natural law. So um that is still available. That's what that's showing here. Um and she's pressing on the root chakra of the fish here. See, one fish is being eaten already, and she's pulled another one out, and he's still breathing, but she's pressing on his root chakra, which basically means that we're just on a track of stealing as much as we can from the earth until it's depleted, without recognizing that we're killing our children. We're setting our children and our children's children up for um having nothing. And we could stop at any time. But the thing is, it would be we that would have to stop. One person stopping Um, this is something that I realized. Like I do as the best I can to not participate, but I live in it, so I have to participate at a lot of levels. Um, but there's no we at the moment because of the probably the extreme trauma that we all endured during 2020. That was just like the icing on the cake of trauma that we've all experienced. But now everybody is like in terror subconsciously and out for themselves. So there is no we. Even like all I see is on social media and even in person with people is talking about how they need to do something different. Not we, not the three fingers pointing back at me. They have to do what they're doing. They're not willing to do this. They're not willing to do that. But it has to be we together. And I don't really know how to get back to that at this point. It's been shattered. I've noticed in the natural law community, I've had very unpleasant encounters with people attacking me viciously for my point of view and thinking that it's okay to do that. That's a form of theft right there. I mean, um, that's a form of deception when when we're under the heading of a natural law community and yet we still treat each other um, in a tyrannical way. That's theft. Um, so bringing it home to myself, like when I was at the fair doing orographs, this is an orograph, this drawing is an orograph. I was doing orographs and I was doing energy healing. When I would have someone sit down with me, I would talk to them and find out what was going on with them. And um, uh, if I felt that I had information for that person that wouldn't get me money, but that would really help them, I would choose to forego getting paid to give them the information that I felt would really help them. And that's because I believe that I am being paid by God. I'm in God's employment, and I will get what I need one way or the other, as long as I give freely of the knowledge that I have to others so that they can find a real answer. Um, I'm not going to just sell them my product because I want to make money from the thing I'm doing. And that's very hard. It's very difficult, but I just feel that down in the long run, it would be better to have free people than for me to get paid. So that's one thing. Um, I also had a few experiences recently. Um, the person I was supposed to share this booth at this fair with another person who approached me like 6 months ago and said that they wanted to do this fair, and it was an hour from my house. So normally I would never go out of my way like that. But I decided to do it because we would be doing it together, and we'd been working on it for a very long time. I knew this person online. She was a client of mine, and she had been a client for a year and a weekly client. And we met finally to discuss the logistics of the fair. And she asked me to do the signs by hand. So I did two signs by hand lettered. Took about 25 hours of time to make those signs instead of buying a sign for $100, which, when I was mired in the painting of the signs, I knew that buying the signs probably would have been better. But I had gone along with it. And then at the last minute, like around 3 weeks or a month before, 3 weeks maybe before the show, she called me up and told me I'm bailing on you, she said. I'm bailing on you. I got a job. That's theft. So much theft. I mean, that's deception and coercion. I was in a state of shock. Um, but I decided to go ahead with it. And I just decided that I would forgive her because I've done the same thing in the past when I wasn't living by natural law. I've bailed on people many times, but I would not forget. I'm just not going to forget that that was done to me by this one person. So I'm not going to speak to her again. Um, but I also am not going to make promises I can't keep either. I'm not going to commit to something that I'm not going to follow through on. If I had gotten a job, I would have had to tell the job that I had a previous commitment and I had to keep that commitment before I could start the job. And then because I work for God, um, and humans may, sign the check or whatever, I have to do the right thing by my word. Otherwise, my word is valueless. And that's a form of theft and coercion because I present myself to be a person of my word. And then if I break my word, then I'm a liar and a thief. Being a liar is being a thief. Another thing that happened recently was that someone who I've known for 11 years um, changed the nature of our relationship by leaving me a message on my phone. And that is a form of theft also. Here's the way. If you have stuff going on with someone and you're feeling crappy, the way to figure out what's going on is to ask yourself some questions. Basically, the basic questions are, what do I want from the situation? What am I trying to get from the situation? And not necessarily like on the above board, what am I trying to get? Where am I selfishly trying to get something for myself in the situation? Um, where am I lying by omission or commission? Either committing a lie or not telling the whole truth. Um, how am I trying to get over on the person? Like, how am I trying to make myself look good in the situation, even though I am um, really trying to get out of the situation that we're in without much pain on my end. And what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of losing, or what am I afraid of not getting? So first I have to look at those things in myself, and then I do need to talk it over with the person. If the person is long distance, I need to talk it over with them on the phone and let us both have a conversation so that there is resolution between us, not just call someone up and leave them a bomb message on their voicemail about how I'm done with our relationship the way it was and I'm going to change the relationship. That's a form of theft and coercion. It's deception because, you know, there's a certain amount of trust that gets built between people if you're in a relationship for a long period of time. And then if the person just explodes into flames and burns down the relationship, the other person has been deceived. Theft, that's theft. And coercion, obviously, because deception is just another part of coercion. It's where coercion is where you don't get all the facts, so you can't make a sound decision. And having known someone for 11 years, I thought I knew that person, but I obviously didn't. So I've been deceived. And I'm sitting here, thinking about it. And part of me wants to call them and talk to them about it, but then I'm like, what's the point? Because they're the ones that instigated this separation. So I kind of just have to wait. And I'm not going to allow myself to have conversations about them in my head out loud while they're not here, because that is a form of self punishment, which is me causing harm to myself, which I think a lot of people do this. I don't really know if a lot of people do this or not, but I know I do it. Like I definitely talk about people behind their back out loud to myself when I'm by myself. I argue, I have these long conversations out loud. I don't know if anybody else does this, but it doesn't leave me feeling very good, though. It leaves me feeling robbed of the time that I spent doing it. So what I do when I'm doing that is I just ask God to remove it. I just ask God, please stop this thing in my mind. And then I try to come into the present moment, because I'm basically robbing myself of what's actually happening in the here and now. And that is a form of theft, me stealing from myself. You know, I always hear, like, even from people in the new natural law community, that we are above animals. And it really is annoying to me. Okay. I feel humans were probably a hybrid of some alien and a hominid. And the what they call the eating of the apple in the Bible was really the development of the intellect, which that's why people think we're so much better than the animal kingdom, because we have this intellect and we have opposable thumbs. That's the thing that makes us be better than them. Okay. And the only reason we're better, we need to be better than them is so that we can justify how we treat them, how we use them for experiments, and how we eat them, and how we torture them, and how cruel we are to them because we think we're better than them. Okay. But I actually don't think the intellect it does make me above anyone. I think the intellect for me is a detriment, because it's in the intellect that evil is born. By allowing myself to think things about someone who is not there and form beliefs. If I let that thing run, I cut myself off from the person, and I can start acting out of those things that I came up with when I was by myself, as well as um, robbing myself of the present moment. And it is a form of self-criticism, since as above, so below, as within, so without, and because we're all connected. When I am raking someone over the coals in my mind, I'm really raking myself over the coals. So I work very hard at not allowing myself to do that anymore. I ask God to remove it, and then I try to be helpful to someone, or I try to take care of whatever it is I'm doing, and try to have a blank mind, either through breath or um, saying a mantra. Any of those things are better than me doing that thing where I'm criticizing and shredding people who aren't with me. And shredding people who are with me is also not a good thing either. Um, we could really be all having a great time here. We could be having a lot of fun together if if we didn't have an intellect, if I didn't have an intellect telling me that I had to get over on my brothers and sisters and steal from them before they steal from me. Um, so going back to the drawing for a moment, let me just go back to the drawing. I just want to say one thing about that. She's showing, okay, this thing that you can do. She's showing ways to open your chakras and focus on energy sensing and feeling the energy through your feet. And there are ways to do this using the breath. You guys can find this out for yourselves, but this is what you can do to circumvent the system is you can start to use your breath and your energy sensing to connect with the greater natural reality that the system doesn't cover. And when you do that, when I do it, I start to get um, access to the third way, the way out from being, the stupid digital ID is what's on everybody's tongue right now. But guess what? There's always going to be a way around it because there's always going to be the third way, the way of natural law and God. And so that's what the drawing was telling me. It was telling me to continue to cultivate and feel the natural energies and not allow them to be harvested by the parasite. To always be willing to give freely of what I have to others. Now, not to, then there's another part of that where you give more than you can afford to give. But so each of us has to figure that out for themselves. We do have to put the oxygen mask over our nose and mouth first before we help our child. But the other thing with that is I could also just trust that I'm going to get if I'm a person who can't quite figure that one out, I could just pray about it and ask for it to make sure that I get what I need. And then I just tell God, I'm going to give as much as I possibly can to humanity and to the earth while I'm here. And I'm going to let you, God, take care of me and make sure I get what I need. But in order to do that, I have to be moral. In order to live that way, I do need to live according to natural law. I need to be in alignment with morality in order to receive that kind of power at that level. Until next time.